class of Ideal English Higher Secondary School. How you all? Hope you all are doing well. Anyway, in this video, we are going to continue our chapter and then Gandhi came. We had started this chapter in last class, and now we will be starting with a flashback of this chapter, what we have learned in last class, and we'll move on. Okay, anyway, come and join with me. So, and then Gandhi came, a beautiful article written by our first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So it's such a beautiful article about the timely arrival of Gandhiji to Indian politics. Okay, Gandhi came into Indian politics when the people were in a quagmire of fear and defeatism. So, Gandhiji came to Indian politics in such a time when Indian people were in dire need of a great leader. They were feeling a necessity of a great one to lead them. And in such a situation, Gandhiji came. People were in a quagmire of fear and defeatism. Quagmire, you already know the word meaning, a very difficult and dangerous situation. So, people were afraid of so many things. We discussed in last class. They were afraid of so many things, and they were in the grip of defeatism. Defeatism is a kind of pessimism, so that they accept defeat without struggling, because they have been struggling for decades, not for decades. They were struggling for their freedom for centuries with British, and in each struggle they were brutally suppressed, defeated. So a kind of pessimism started to overpower them. They thought, however, they thought they are not going to succeed in their venture at any time. So that's what they learned from their experience. So it was such a situation that Gandhiji came to Indian politics. Then what happens? We discussed a few changes that took place after the arrival of Gandhiji. Anyway, the main issues were fear, unemployment, hopelessness, poverty, starvation, and defeatism. Right? They had began the article by saying that after World War I, Indians were in great expectation that this war would give them some kind of relief, as it was offered for them. Indians were taken to participate in war to help Britain, and we were offered some benefits of the war. But what happened? We all know that after World War I in 1990. Jallianwala Bagh took place. Martial law was implemented, and many of our forefathers were shot dead. We all know that history, right? General O'Dwyer ordered his men to shoot brutally, to shoot our forefathers brutally. Right? So, after World War I, martial law was implemented, and people started to be more afraid than before, and they lost their job. They became jobless, and at the same time they became hopeless too. Unemployment, hopeless, fear, all these things started to crumble our people. Yes, then what happened? His arrival to Indian politics brought a new change. Indians felt relieved to an extent. It's equated with a fresh current of air, a beam of light to darkness. So, by the arrival of Gandhiji, a sea change took place. Indians started to feel a kind of relaxation. Now they have a great leader behind whom they can march, they can fight. So now as an answer for their much prolonged wait, Gandhi came to Indian politics, and it was in the article. It is equator to a fresh current of air. You are struggling to find some air to breathe, and at that time you are given fresh air. How much relief it would give you? It was the same situation that happened to Indians. And you were in a dark room, and from a corner, a small beam of light started to penetrate into the darkness, spreading light all everywhere. It was the condition when Gandhiji came to Indian politics. Yes. First, he enlightened the people about the objective of the freedom struggle as the freedom of India, which was possible only through the welfare of the mass. He said, "We Indians are struggling to get our freedom, and it is possible only through the welfare of the mass. So do not exploit the common man. Don't try to take advantage of the farmers. Let them be free. Do not exploit them. Don't back them up with burdens." So he raised his voice against the exploitation of common man. That's how Gandhiji started his work. And what was the essence of Gandhiji's teaching? He taught the people to be fearless and importance of being truthful in public life through campaigns, peaceful and cooperation. Peaceful and non-cooperation. So Gandhiji's teachings was mainly based on fearlessness and truthfulness. And that's what he explained. In our ancient scriptures, it is said, Abhaya. Abhaya means fearlessness. So we Indians are not to be afraid of anything. We are to be fearless and follow truth. That was the main essence of Gandhiji's preachings, his teachings. He identified the main problems of the people like a psychoanalyst. So Gandhiji identified what was the problem with the people, just like an expert in psychology. Psychoanalyst means psychoanalysis means a system of psychological theory and therapy which aims to treat the mental disorders by investigating the interaction of conscious and unconscious element in the mind on bringing repressed fears and conflicts into the conscious mind by techniques such as dream interpretation. So psychoanalysis means to investigate deep into the root cause of something. So Gandhiji did the same thing. Gandhiji investigated deep into the cause for the fear of the people, and he found that Indians were afraid of so many things. They were afraid of money lenders, they were afraid of police, they were afraid of unemployment, they were afraid of British rulers. For so many reasons were there to be afraid of. So Gandhiji probed deep into the reason, and he asked people to be fearless. And he said, fear is the close companion of falsehood, and at the same time, fearlessness is the close companion of truth. So don't be afraid of anything. Be fearless and follow truth. That was the preaching of Gandhiji. Gandhiji identified the main problems of the people like a psychoanalyst. Okay, so that's what we have covered in last class. So far we had covered in last class. Now you have to read from so suddenly as it were to shape us into truth. Use your textbook to read the textual part. Those who do not have textbook can pause the video after each slide and read it. Okay. Pause it now. Read. When I change the slide, again pause. Read. Okay. Okay, dear ones, hope you read the textual part. Now listen. So suddenly, as it were, that the black cloud of fear was lifted from the people's shoulders, not wholly, of course, but to an amazing extent, to amazing degree, as fear is close companion of falsehood, so truth follows fearlessness. So as Gandhiji came into the life of people, came to the Indian politics, he preached people to be fearless. Don't be afraid of anything. As we said before, Indians were obeying the British rule only because of the fear, the strangling fear that they were going through. Right? The fear of landlords, the fear of police, fear of legislation, a fear of money lenders, fear of the British rulers, a fear of punishment. So many reasons were there to be afraid of. So Gandhiji came and asked people not to be afraid of anything. And he taught people how to break the law peacefully. Then what happens? He showed people what happens if you break the law. So far people were thinking that if you break the law, you will be punished so, and you will be killed, you will be murdered, and you will be given some wild punishment. So that were they thinking. But once Gandhiji came and he showed people what it happens when you break the law. So once they practice breaking laws, they understand that it is not that fearsome. The phantom, the fearful vision that the fear created in your mind is bigger than the reality. In real, it is not that fearsome. So people started to break law as a part of protest. So the black cloud of fear was lifted from the eyes of people. A dark cloud of smoke or dust. So far people were blinded with fear. Once Gandhiji came into the politics, the black cloud of fear was lifted. And from the people's shoulder, not wholly, of course, but to an amazing degree. Not completely. You can't change people completely with a short time of period, but to an amazing degree, people changed a lot. As fear is close companion to falsehood, so truth follows fearlessness. So, if you are afraid, you will definitely have to follow falsehood. As you are afraid of so many things, you will have to resort to falsehood. So, truth is the close companion of fearlessness. So, be truthful, be fearless. That's what Gandhiji taught the people. The Indian people did not become much more truthful than they were, nor did they change their essential nature overnight. Nevertheless, a sea change was visible as the need for falsehood and furtive behavior lessened. So, by a night, Gandhiji couldn't change the people completely. It is not possible to change a person's attitude overnight. Overnight means something that happens very quick. So it is not possible to change people's attitude very quick. Do you think so? Of course not. But Gandhiji could make a sea change in their attitude slowly, gradually. They started to change. The Indian people did not become much more truthful than they were. They didn't become much more truthful. But slowly they began to change. Right. Their essential nature overnight. Nevertheless, a sea change was visible as the need for falsehood and furtive behavior lessened. When their need for falsehood, furtive behavior means secret behavior, hiding something from others. So this behavior and their need for falsehood and furtive behavior lessened, they started to be fearless and truthful. That's how Gandhiji changed people. It was a psychological change, almost as if some expert in psychoanalytical method had probed deep into the patient's past, found out the origins of his complexes, exposed them to his view, and thus rid him of that burden. So Gandhiji acted just like an expert in psychoanalytical theory. Psychoanalysis, we have learned, it is probing deep into the reason of some disorders, investigating the reason behind some mental disorders and cure that root cause. Find solution to the problem by treating that reason. Here Gandhiji probed deep into the reason for the fear of the people. There was the psychological reactions also, a feeling of shame at our long submission to an alien rule that had degraded and humiliated us, and a desire to submit no longer, whatever the consequences might be. So as Gandhiji came to Indian politics, and as a leader, people started to think about the value of the freedom. And they thought, we have been under the rule of an alien country. Alien means belonging to foreign country. So as Indians were under the British rule, they started to feel some kind of shame for long submission to an alien rule. We were surrendering to a foreign rule. So now they have started to feel some kind of shame, and now they thought, no more submission. We will not submit anymore. Will we not surrender anymore to any? We are not ready at all to submit to an alien rule, and we will fight against. And the desire to submit no longer, whatever the consequences might be, whatever after effect happens, whatever comes of it, they are ready to face. What they may be punished, they may be put behind the bars, they may be sent to some other countries. Whatever it might be, they are ready to fight. They are ready to face the consequences, the after result of fighting against British rule. So anyhow, whatever may be the result, they are not no more ready to submit for it. We did not grow much more truthful, perhaps than we had been previously, but Gandhi was always there as a symbol of uncompromising truth to pull us up and shape us into truth. So Indian people were not ready to change their attitude. They were not ready to be truthful so soon. It is not easy to change one's attitude. So Gandhi asked, but at the same time, Gandhi asked people to be truthful and he remained truthful. He set an example for others. So he was there as a symbol of uncompromising truth. So he asked people to be truthful and he remains to be truthful. Seeing this, people started to feel some kind of shame. People started to feel ashamed to be untruthful. So Gandhi shaped us into truth means Gandhiji's truthful life made us to change our attitude to truthfulness. He preached, as it was said, my life is my message. It was a great quote from Gandhiji, right? So he asked people to be truthful and he lived truthful. So as he is the honest man, when he asks people to be honest, they have no choices. Yes. What is the truth? I do not know for certain, and perhaps all truths are relative and absolute truth is beyond us. Different personality, different persons may and do take different views on truth. And each individual is powerfully influenced by his own background, training and impulses. So truth is a relative thing. It changes to person. Something which is truthful, someone may not be truthful to you. What is something that is truthful, you may not be truthful something else, someone else. Because truth is a relative thing and the absolute truth is beyond us. Right. So there are so many examples. A small example for a truth differs to person. When you stand, for example, it is number 6 is written there, and when you stand that side, it is written 9, and when you stand this side, it is written 6. Two persons standing either side of this letter, right? He will read it 9 and I read it 6. Both are correct. Truth, right? Because it changes to person as per the background, training, things like that. So the same case happened here too. Truth is a relative thing. It changes to person, but and a person's background, a person's background, training and impulses have great influence of what is truth. So also for Gandhiji also that had such influences, his background, his training had a great influence on to decide what is truth for him. But truth is at least for a person, an individual, what he himself feels and knows to be truth. So what I think to be truth is truth for me. What you think to be truth, that is truth for you. Right? So what I think to be truth, I should follow this. What you think to be truth, you should follow that. Then only you can be truthful. So according to this definition, I do not know of any person who holds the truth as Gandhiji does. So as per this definition, Gandhiji was the first one to follow truth. He followed whatever he thought to be truth. So whatever you think to be truth, you have to follow. Whatever I think to be truth, I have to follow. Then only we can be a truthful person. That is a dangerous quality in a politician, for he speaks out his mind and even lets the public see its changing faces. So truthfulness is such a quality which is very dangerous in the case of a politician, because he speaks out his mind. He doesn't care whatever happens. A truthful person speaks his mind. But when it comes to a politician, it is such a dangerous quality. You might know the story that once Gandhiji was invited to have a cup of tea with a British ruler. And as he was having his tea, the British ruler wanted to mock Gandhiji, and he said, "Why don't you put on proper clothes? Your cloth is not enough for warmth." Then Gandhiji retorted. He responded, he gave answer saying, "You have worn clothes enough for two. That's why, and I am not asking about it." Right? So he doesn't care whatever happens, he speaks of his mind. So a truthful person always speaks of his mind. Gandhi influenced millions of people in India in varying degrees. So he influenced a lot of people in India, but the influence was in varying degrees. Some people were influenced completely. They followed Gandhi. Some changed their whole texture of their lives. Seeing Gandhiji, they changed the whole texture of their life. Texture means the appearance or consistency of a surface or a substance. Texture means the feel or appearance. So seeing Gandhiji, influenced by Gandhiji, some people changed completely their appearance, their behavior, their thought, their belief, everything they changed. Others were only partly affected. Some people accepted only in parts. They listened to Gandhiji, they accepted his preachings, his doctrines, his principles, but not completely, only in parts. What the effects were of, some people, they accepted his principles, but in the course of time, it lost its significance. It loses its significance. More of means to gradually decrease. So some people, even though they were influenced by Gandhiji, in the course of time, the influence gradually decreased. A different world. Yet not quiet, for some part of it could not be wholly shaken off. Different people reacted differently, and each will give his own answer to his question. So Gandhiji influenced people in different degrees. Some people accepted him completely, some others only in part. Some people accepted him in the course of time, they changed. There was a decrease in the influence. So anyhow, each one of us were influenced. His call of action was twofold. Gandhiji had twofold action plans. There was, of course, the action involved in challenging and resisting foreign rule. And there was also the action which led us to fight against our own social evils. So Gandhiji had to fight against two things in India. The one thing is fight against the British rule, alien rule. Right? We can no more resist. We can no more accept or submit to the alien rule. So we have to challenge and resist the alien rule, the British rule. It was one of his action plan. The other one was to resist, to challenge the social evils existed in India. At that time, so many social evils existed in India. Poverty, unemployment, and illiteracy, gender inequality, and so many other social evils existed, and Gandhiji had to fight against these social evils too. Apart from the fundamental objective of the Congress, the freedom of India, and the method of peaceful action, the principal plans of the Congress were national unity. So Gandhiji was the leader of Congress, right? And Congress had the main aim as the freedom of India through peaceful action. It was the fundamental goal of Congress. And apart from this fundamental goal, there were some other aims to achieve for Congress, such as national unity, which involved the solution of the minority problems. So they worked for national unity by which the minority problems can be solved. And the rising of the depressed classes and the ending of the curse of untouchability. So we have to lift the life standard of people, and at the same time we have to remove the curse of untouchability. So many social evils existed. So Congress had a plan to remove all these social evils. Plans means a fundamental point of political or other program. So principal plans means the fundamental point, the fundamental aim or goal of Congress. That's all for today. Hope you understood the chapter. If you find it difficult to understand in some particular place, repeat the video and get your doubts cleared. We will continue in next class. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.